Josh Harris not spending money has not been a problem for the Washington Commanders. You and your sad Sixers fandom can get the hell out of our comments and go somewhere else with your just blatantly wrong information. Again, you're not required to comment. You're allowed to watch and learn and become smarter and not say stupid things on the internet. AC Phila, goodbye.
Never read the comments.
All right. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks because we've had all kinds of stuff happening with the playoffs, and I was out last Thursday sick. I don't think they let Doc and Linnell near the comments. That would have been a very dangerous thing. Could you imagine if we just... Vic's back in studio for Ant today. Vic, could you imagine Doc Walker and especially Linnell unleashed with YouTube comments?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be part of that.
No, that's just too high risk. There's very special. I have a very particular set of skills that allows me to handle this.
I value my life.
Yeah, no, as you should. So here's what we got. The biggest mover of the comments this week was in response to Gary from Upper Marlboro, which is not the first time that we've said that. Gary called in Wednesday? No, today's Thursday. Tuesday. Gary called in on Tuesday and said, quote unquote, the jury is still out on Adam Peters. His rationale was enough that I thought it was worth posting up on YouTube, and knew that there would be some fiery feedback. And saying like, hey, not all of these rookies hit. There are some guys, including some higher picks with some questions. Let's just say that argument didn't land particularly well amongst all of his fellow Commanders fans. Greg O'Donnell, 8469. Wait, what? Michael Balderson, 8650. Gary, all caps, Gary, you have no idea what you are talking about. Then there were some more in-depth comments. R. Charles 317 says, this guy is smoking that good Reggie Miller. I can't make that up. That's what he said. This guy is smoking that good Reggie Miller. Sounds like a fan who just doesn't want to be happy, and that's sad giving the hope that we finally have. Peter should easily be executive of the year. He inherits a horrible team and flip them into contenders year one. This guy needs to relax, sit back, and let Adam cook. Damn. And this is kind of where I come down on this. One, I think Adam Peters did an excellent job, and he so thoroughly nailed the quarterback position. And he would have taken Jaden number one had they had the number one pick, which I think tells you something about how sure he was in a draft with a bunch of good options. Because I think, given the infrastructure here, I think if they had taken Caleb Williams, I know it wasn't an option, but say they take Caleb Williams, I think Caleb Williams had a far better rookie season in Washington than he had in Chicago. If Drake May had been the pick here, I think Drake May would have been right up there potentially for Rookie of the Year, depending on where Jaden had gone. I think Jaden would have been awesome anywhere. No doubt they maximized by getting Jaden Daniels here, but it is worth pointing out that the infrastructure here got the best out of Jaden, and the best out of some of the other guys probably would have been pretty good. And with all of that said, they were that sure that Jaden was the right guy. And Adam, if he does nothing else right for the rest of his time as GM, will have that as a legacy piece of how good of a job he was as general manager in year one. Mike Sainristil is the future leader of this team. He's probably like the singular leader, like the role that Bobby Wagner had this year, starting maybe even next year, but within a couple of years, like Mike Sainristil is the guy, and he's also a pretty darn good actual football player. Then you look at the free agents that they got, and some of these guys were guys that Quinn knew, certainly with Bobby from back in the Seattle days, guys like Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, etc. But Adam had to go ultimately make all that happen. He had to have the conversations with the agents. He had to get make the finances work, and he certainly was approving all of these to say, like, these are the right guys. And he was also then able to find some other guys that Dan didn't have any relationships with. Your Frankie Lubus, your Jeremy Chins, and be like, this is what you want? I got you, fam. I'm going to go get it. And that combination of stuff got them to the NFC Championship game. As Kevin Roll, 8299 says, we just made it to the NFC Championship with a team built by AP. Calm down, guys. I don't get some of the griping. I don't get some of the, it's this person's fault. This team was well put together, and it maxed out. It is hard to put any blame on anything other than the limitations of the people involved on the field in uniform of why they didn't go further this year. And at that point, what do we mean of jury still out on Adam Peters? Come on. Greg H. 2322 says, if he only picked Daniels, that would have been good enough. Exactly. That said, if we talk about moving forward, it's not like there aren't questions, but that's the nature of team building in the NFL. The nature of team building in the NFL is you're going to draft rookies that you hope will ultimately become your best players, and they are not going to always be good immediately. Mike Hughes, 3965, says, to be fair, Sinnott was kind of blocked by Ertz and then Bates. He worries me a lot less than Luke. With how he needed wide receiver help this season, would have liked to see more from Luke. However, he is new to the position, and he is a hard worker, so I could see him contributing a lot more in 2025. And that's kind of the thing, right, is some of these guys were taken knowing that in the long term, their ceiling is a lot higher, but in the short term, they were going to have a pretty steep learning curve. I think if you had asked Adam Peters before the season, hey, man, what do you hope to get out of Luke McCaffrey this year? He's like, I want him to show up to work every day and work hard. Cool. Luke McCaffrey did that. Luke McCaffrey is not a guy that leaves a lot of stones unturned. That doesn't mean he's good at NFL wide receiver yet, but they believe in his traits, they believe in his work ethic, and he was playing quarterback like 3 years ago. Mike Sainristil, for as good as he was this year, and he was certainly not unimpeachable, he had some really rough moments, but he is a third-year corner who was spending the spent the majority of the preseason and the offseason playing inside. They cross-trained him some outside, and then he went and played outside corner at a pretty high level for a lot of games. That's pretty remarkable. Imagine what that guy can be once he's got more experience playing cornerback in the NFL. You're just playing cornerback, period. They also had a couple of other guys that are going to need to step up starting next year that basically didn't play at all this year. Jordan McGee. They like him a lot. He's fast, he's physical, he's really smart, but he was hurt basically the entirety of the season. Dominique Hampton. They took him with the intention of switching his position. And then by the end of training camp, knowing that he wasn't ready yet, he was put on the 53 because they knew that they couldn't stash him on the practice squad. Someone else would sign him. And they redshirted him. I think he was active maybe it was week 18, maybe it was week 17. One of the games late in the season, he was active and he played some on special teams. But, that was it. He was inactive, healthy scratch every single week because they literally said, your job this year is to learn this new position, put on weight, and get better so that you're ready to go next year. And so those guys, Javonte Jean-Baptiste played as a 7th rounder. They did a remarkable job with their front office, and Adam just deserves a ton of credit. More perspective from the comments. Hui Nguyen says, no one hits 100%. This draft class and free agent signing was miles ahead of what we've had in almost forever. Yeah, pretty much. And then this one I thought was interesting because we obviously the Commanders lost to Philadelphia. We see them go down to the number 2 seed, who is just absolutely a juggernaut. They have got great roster. That roster is, by and large, signed up for the future. Jalen Hurts is under contract. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter still on his rookie deal. Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean were rookies, so they've got a bunch of years left on the rookie deals. The core of that team is young, it is good, and it is not going anywhere. They're going to have to replace Lane Johnson at right tackle pretty soon. There's a chance, and Mekhi Becton's a free agent at right guard, but because Jeff Stoutland is their offensive line coach and he's awesome, you feel pretty good about the offensive line for Philly always being a positive. So we talked about during the show over the past week how Philly is going to be the arch nemesis probably for Washington moving forward. And AC Phila commented, an Eagles fan, pops into our comments, which is always my favorite. It's not a given that Harris will spend the dough. The Sixers opened the season with 14 of 15 roster spots so he could duck the tax. He also lost out on Ben Johnson because they didn't offer him enough money. One, they never offered Ben Johnson any money, you absolute dweeb. Don't come in my comments with fiction stuff if you're from out of town. I will destroy you every single time. They didn't offer Ben Johnson any money because Ben Johnson was never their favorite candidate for the job. Don't believe anything else because it's wrong. Simple enough. Capiche. Capiche. 2, Josh Harris didn't spend money on the Sixers' 15th roster spot because in the NBA, they have things called the repeater tax, which is extraordinarily punitive, not only to Josh Harris's bottom line and the team budget, which who really cares? Josh Harris has a ton of money, although he's got a little less now because he had to spend $6 billion on a football team with some help from his friends. But it's not a cash flow issue. They also, with the new updated CBA, there's real competitive issues. You lose mid-level exceptions. You lose draft picks potentially if you're in the tax and over the second apron and all these very nerdy lawyer level details that affect the CBA and how you can build a team. So yeah, avoiding the tax in the NBA is really smart, not just because it saves your owner a bunch of money, but because it also means you don't hit the competitive disadvantages that come with being too expensive as a roster in a luxury tax league. In the NFL, there's a salary cap and a salary floor, and every team spends the money. Josh Harris not spending money has not been a problem for the Washington Commanders. You and your sad Sixers fandom can get the hell out of our comments and go somewhere else with your just blatantly wrong information. Again, you're not required to comment. You're allowed to watch and learn and become smarter and not say stupid things on the internet. AC Phila, goodbye. Peace. Continuing on with the Commanders. This one from C-Rob for President TV 444. C-Rob, I have bad news. I don't think with whatever this was, you're going to become president. He goes, man, I love my boys, but there's no way you are saying we tackle well. Everybody's running back got off on us. However they categorize it, we got to do better. So this came in lieu of us talking about some of the issues Washington had with the run defense this year. And here's the thing. With the Commanders, tackling actually wasn't the issue. It was an issue, obviously, on the Saquon TD run. It was an issue against Tampa in Week 1. But the Commanders overall, they track these things. There's data. The Commanders were 5th in the NFL in tackling this year. They were in terms of 5th fewest missed tackles. They did not miss a lot of tackles this year. And that's rate, by the way. It wasn't total missed tackles. That was missed tackle rate. They were 5th best in the league. The problem was you have to be in place to make the tackles in the first place. And that's where the Commanders missed real big on some of their run stuff, where they just had these big gaping holes. And the other big area where they missed was they were one of the worst teams in the league in yards before contact. So running backs could get 4 or 5 yards downfield with frequency without being touched. And then yards after contact, Washington was one of the best teams in the NFL. So they could get push, other teams would get push, and then Bobby Wagner would come up and make a tackle. And watching it on tape was a real mind trip sometimes, because you would get, that looks like a 2-yard gain. Wait, it's 2nd and 4? Because the line of scrimmage got pushed so far up, and then you watch Washington's offensive line be basically the opposite, where they would not get that push, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that was a 2-yard gain that looked like the same 6-yard gain when I was watching the defensive tape. And that's, you don't have to like it, but that's the data, that's the information, that's the analysis, and it is inarguable.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.